Yesterday, MAGA Republicans were dealt a crushing blow in a key congressional hearing. This wasn't just another routine political clash. No, it was a pivotal moment where the truth came to light, exposing lies and manipulations once thought hidden. Finally, the Democrats took the offensive. They presented damning evidence, turning the tide in their favor and laying bare the abuses of the Trump administration. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. The testimonies of victims, survivors of police violence, shattered the carefully constructed image of the MAGA Republicans. And here's the burning question. Why isn't this making headlines? The truth that's being hidden is far more explosive than you think. Stick with us, because what follows will completely change your perception of what's going on behind the scenes. What transpired yesterday wasn't just a political skirmish. No, it was something much larger. The reality behind these hearings is far more extensive, more complex, and much more alarming than you could imagine. The Democrats acted with a clear strategy to shed light on systemic violence and abuse of power. At the heart of these debates, devastating witnesses shared how they were victims of ICE and Border Patrol forces, institutions under Trump's watch. These testimonies were explosive. And here's the real question. Why aren't these stories at the center of the national conversation? Why is the violence of authorities being downplayed when it affects lives, families, and communities? This is where things get even more compelling, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. MAGA Republicans tried to turn this hearing into a culture war, and the Democrats flipped the script, exposing an entirely different kind of war, the one hiding behind the walls of government. Here's what will truly shock you. The Democrats didn't just expose general abuse. They presented irrefutable evidence that completely changes the game. During these hearings, a key witness, Miramar Martinez, shared her story. She was shot 5 times by Border Patrol agents. And when the authorities were confronted with her accusations, their response was a lie. The agents claimed she had attacked them with her vehicle, but the reality was very different. Videos and contemporary evidence showed that these claims were fabricated. But that's not all. What happens next will make you react. The agent sent messages bragging about shooting her. One message read, 5 bullets, 7 holes. Good job, guys. This is where everything changes. This is no longer just an abuse of power. It's pure dehumanization. And if that doesn't shock you, then it's time to truly rethink what we consider acceptable. But that's not all. What's happening here goes beyond a simple blunder. What you need to understand is that this incident is part of a larger pattern, a normalization of violence and impunity. The Border Patrol agents were caught red-handed, and instead of being prosecuted, they were protected. The truth is being silenced at every turn. And this echoes other recent events. Do you remember the George Floyd case, the shockwaves it sent across America? What happened to Miramar Martinez is another example of that systemic violence hiding behind the law and order. But this time, no one can claim they didn't know, because after this hearing, everyone will know exactly what's happening in these agencies. It's this normalization of the unacceptable that's the most disturbing. Violence is no longer an accident. It's now part of the system, part of the machinery of control and repression. Imagine for a moment if this continues, where will it lead us? Now, you'll see why this isn't just an isolated incident. The truth is even more shocking than you think. After all, these revelations are just beginning. The Democrats highlighted even more disturbing testimonies. Miramar Martinez isn't the only victim. Other survivors of ICE and Border Patrol came forward, each sharing a story that, far from being an exception, is becoming the rule. These testimonies echo a systematic practice of state violence, and what's even more appalling is how the MAGA Republicans tried to deflect attention and maintain the status quo. While the Democrats were exposing these abuses, MAGA launched a campaign to destroy the witnesses' reputations, accusing them of being victims of a system they were supposed to defend. And here's the game changer. Another witness revealed that some agents took photos of the victims after they had hurt them, as if collecting trophies. This is where everything changes. This is no longer just an abuse of power. It's pure dehumanization. And if that doesn't shock you, then it's time to truly reconsider what we accept. The impact of this situation is far broader than you think. This isn't just an isolated case. These are events unfolding before our eyes, a series of crises stacking one on top of the other. Look at what happened next. Barely had Miramar Martinez finished testifying when another victim, Aaliyah Rahman, came forward, attacked in turn by ICE. This time, it wasn't a shooting. It was a deliberate refusal to provide her with essential medical care while she was in distress. She had to beg for more than an hour until she lost consciousness. That's when you realize that this violence isn't an accident. It's part of a well-established culture of impunity within these agencies. Then, a few hours later, another victim, Luke Ganganger, the brother of the late Renee Nicole Good, spoke out. He shared the pain of losing his sister under violent circumstances and how this tragedy shattered an entire community. But the pain doesn't stop there. Each testimony, each story adds weight to this chain of suffering and anger. What will happen if this cycle of violence continues? We risk losing far more than lives. We risk losing our humanity. But there's one aspect of this story that truly touches the heart. This isn't just a political issue. This is a matter of life and death, of real human suffering. And this suffering touches people like you. Ordinary citizens, broken families, devastated communities. Miramar Martinez is not an abstract victim. She's a mother, a sister, a daughter whose life was turned upside down in an instant by the violence of a system that was supposed to protect her. Imagine for a second if this happened to you. What would you do if your own government, an institution meant to protect you, shot you, humiliated you, and left you for dead? That's the reality for thousands of people who don't have the privilege of testifying before Congress. You may have heard similar stories before, but these ones are different. These testimonies, these images, these shattered lives are a call to action. And if this situation feels familiar to you, even in a marginal way, speak out in the comments. Now is the time to react. What's happening here is not a simple accident or isolated mistake. It's not a battle between two political parties. What you're witnessing is the product of a system operating under hidden rules, invisible power dynamics. You see, this kind of violence is facilitated by a network of invisible levers, fear, manipulation, and a lack of transparency. These are the forces that allow abuses like those of ICE and Border Patrol to continue without consequence. It's the result of a government that too often hides its actions behind the veil of national security or citizen protection. But behind this facade lies a system that profits from the suffering of the most vulnerable. There's a logic that allows this kind of behavior to not only be tolerated, but legitimized. It's no accident these stories never make the headlines. They don't have the same value as other narratives that divide the nation. What this reveals is a system where some lives matter less than others. This is the system that needs to be dismantled. And the truth is, it starts with us. At this point, the question is, what will happen next? Events are speeding up, and the direction we're headed in is unclear. There are two possible paths. On one side, there's the possibility of genuine awareness. If citizens rise up, if the media begins to treat these abuses for what they truly are, a wave of change could emerge. We could see real reform, greater transparency, and hopefully an end to this systemic violence. But for that, a massive movement is needed, a shift in how we perceive the legitimacy of power and authority. On the other side, if indifference persists, if MAGA Republicans and other dominant forces manage to deflect attention and maintain the status quo, then we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes. The cycle of violence and silence will continue, fueled by forces far more powerful than justice itself. This system will continue to strengthen, leaving victims in its wake. So the question is, what role will we play in this battle, and who will take the first step toward change? What we've uncovered together is not just a series of shocking facts. It's a call for truth, an invitation to see what's really behind the walls of power. This system doesn't sustain itself. It's supported by indifference, ignorance, and a well-calculated fear of questioning the status quo. But here's the profound insight. As long as we stay silent, these abuses will continue to thrive. It's essential to understand that each testimony, each victim, each shattered life is part of a much bigger picture than it may seem. This goes far beyond a political fight or a simple question of justice. It's a matter of human dignity. So what now? It all begins with awareness and action. This isn't a fight for tomorrow. It's a battle being fought today. If this story has touched you, if it's made you think, it's time to take action. Subscribe for deeper analysis, and don't forget to share this truth with those who need to hear it.